Oklahoma 24, Michigan 13. This right here was what the Tennessee game was supposed to be last year. Because I was there last year for the Tennessee game. Remember, that was Josh Heupel coming back home. But it's okay because Brent Venables, multiple years in now as the head coach. And we got Jackson Arnold, the quarterback of the future. Splat. It's a terrible night. Terrible night. And it did not live up to the billing. This did. Now, I'm going to give it 2.5 Chalai on the viewability scale because Michigan's offense didn't do a whole heck of a lot. Credit to Oklahoma. I would argue that in Oklahoma's best of worlds, this never would have been a 5 Chalai classic because that means it's 41-38 and your defense gave up way more than you were comfortable with. Look at that scene. If you're listening on podcast, just imagine walking into a breathtaking atmosphere in Norman, Oklahoma. It was like 64, 65, 66 at kickoff, low humidity, not a cloud in the sky, not a bug in the sky, not a bead of sweat on the forehead, which is very fortunate for people like me. Unbelievable night. Remember last year, things were terrible for Oklahoma. And then remember in spring, I told you, you need to know about me. I'm all in on Oklahoma for this year. And I started sort of, sprinkling crumbs here and there. And then I started to explain why I felt the way I felt about Oklahoma. And I don't want to rehash predictions, but this is why I felt the way I felt and do feel about Oklahoma. It was never a terminally flawed program, but many people were led to believe it was last year because the results were terrible. So anytime the results are terrible and you're struggling to even be bowl eligible, your program must be terrible. Your program must be fatally flawed. Sometimes that's true. It was not the case here. What you had was you had an offensive line, I think, that trotted out 10 different rotations in the first 10 games, and you had a quarterback-OC combo that was in and of itself terminally flawed, but the team wasn't, the roster wasn't. A lot of the guys you saw last night were there last year. Deion Burks wasn't. He was hurt, and he's a stud, and some other wide receivers that they brought in, some offensive linemen that they've brought in. But the point is, what'd you see last night? You saw Oklahoma win. What'd you see? You saw an offensive line more than hold its own, and you saw a quarterback and an offensive coordinator combination that you can trust to go win games. You can trust that offensive coordinator to get you in the right looks, to scheme the right way, to call the right way. You can trust that quarterback to pull the trigger. And if there's nothing open, you can trust him to put his face in the fan and fall forward and get you 6 yards. That's what you can trust. You could not trust these things last year. So it was a great night for Oklahoma, and the best compliment I can give is in a double-digit win over Michigan, could have been a whole lot worse. In fact, I don't know if this is a paper popper or not, but think about this on Friday. If I hit you up, we're walking around there, and I say, hey, tap you on the shoulder, I've seen the game already. Believe it or not, I have access to that sort of thing. It's kind of like all 22 access in college football. It's tough to come by, but imagine I have access to it, and I tell you, excuse me, Johnny Sooner, you are going to lose the turnover battle in this game by 2. There will be an explosive Michigan touchdown run. You will have multiple critical special teams mistakes, and your running backs will average about 3 yards per carry. That is a recipe for an upset loss to Michigan at home. And yet they still won, and won comfortably, really. There was never a point in this game where I didn't feel like Oklahoma was in full control, and I doubt you felt any differently at home. Now, you can take that one of two ways. You can take that to mean that this is a one-off, that's just the way that game happened, or, obviously, the way I'm choosing to take it is we saw a really good product from Oklahoma last night. It can get a lot better. That's the nature of the first month of the season. It can get a lot better. Michigan was, and I'm telling you this now, very high on Bryce Underwood's potential against Brent Venables and his defense. Now, that sounds foolish to me. It sounded foolish to me going into it. I'm just telling you, a lot of the vibe I got from the Michigan camp was all the respect in the world for Oklahoma, all the respect in the world for Brent Venables and his defensive system and whatnot and their players, but they had supreme confidence in their quarterback. I've still got confidence in Underwood. I have no confidence in the guys he's throwing the ball to, but that was going to be an issue for Michigan all year anyway. But that thing played out about how I would expect it to play out, and the only thing that was going to allow Michigan to win this game was if Oklahoma greatly assisted in handing them the game. And Oklahoma did to a certain extent, and it still didn't matter. So that makes me feel good that maybe there's still upward mobility. This is a big hurdle to clear, or it was a big box to check. The Auburn game's the next one. Look, they go to Temple this week. I'm in a position right here. This is just a microphone. So that's all I have to do for a living. This is just a white T-shirt I have to throw on and talk about Oklahoma. I'm not Brent Venables. I don't have to even ask what in the world am I going to Temple for this week, much less worrying about beating them. I'll just count on you to beat them. The next game I'm worried about is the Auburn game. Got to have both of those. Those are non-negotiables for people like me who have predicted Oklahoma to do pretty big things this year. But this is like one piece of paper I have in front of me. That's what it felt like for Mateer. That's really what it felt like for Oklahoma, but it felt like that for John Mateer. It felt like chapter 1 of what's going to end up being a pretty impressive story this year. I picked the guy to win the Heisman. No one needed to sell me on him. I felt like he needed to sell himself to America, maybe. Maybe that's what started to happen last night. Truthfully, most of you didn't watch him at Washington State. Most of you didn't watch him against Illinois in week 1. I don't fault you for that. However, I think a lot of you watched him last night. And I think a lot of you saw maybe some wow moments, inconsistent here and there, but some wow moments that made you go, I don't think most quarterbacks are making that throw. I don't think most quarterbacks are escaping like that. I don't think most quarterbacks are running the ball like that, which brings me to the biggest point of criticism that I've seen, maybe from some Oklahoma fans, but maybe from some detractors that are looking to poke holes in this. Tell me if you've heard this quote today. He ran the ball too much, man. They can't lean on him. 19 carries. Not all of them were designed, obviously. 19 carries for 74 yards. Yeah, that looks good in a big game, but he's going to get beat up. Even as stocky as he is, he's going to get beat up. Well, I can't guarantee you're wrong. I don't think you can guarantee he's going to carry it 19 times a game or even half that much. I doubt John Mateer hits 12 or 13 carries this Saturday against Temple. I doubt it. Have not talked to Ben Arbuckle, but I doubt it. But here's the follow-up question. How else would you like your players to play in big games? That's part of his package as a quarterback. That's part of who he is. We knew that, or at least if you looked at him at all at Washington State, that was part of what excited people like me from him coming from Washington State. And look, yeah, against Illinois State or maybe against Temple this weekend, no, you're not going to have him put his body on the line like that. But in big games, that's what football players do. That's his profile as a player. He's not a statue. He's not a pure pocket passer. He's a really good college quarterback, though. Now, I will tell you this. I stood on the field and watched him. It's the first time I've seen him throw in person. Hey, wait just a second. I appreciate you guys watching. Most of you are subscribed. If you're not, please do so. It's free. It helps us keep the show free, and that's how we do college football year-round. All right, back to the video. I have laughed off people who criticize his release point. It's really low. And so some people criticize that, and it was mainly throwing motion that they were criticizing. He's got no throwing motion problem. That release being where it is, you got to be careful because I could easily see. I mean, I'm on field level, and you really got to be on field level to fully appreciate, first off, how big linemen are and how high their arms are in the air once they're fully extended when they're trying to bat down balls. But even when those linemen's hands aren't in the air, Mateer's release point is such that the ball's got to go up a little bit just out of his hand to get over those guys' heads. And you see it from field level, and you're like, oh, man, he fit another one in there, which is great. He's really good at it because he's been doing it his whole life. It's not like it's not like they worked with him in the bullpen on a new release point before this year. So, yeah, he's used to that. That's his muscle memory. Those are his natural, instinctive mechanics. I could see a game where batted balls become a random big issue for them on a Saturday, and you never once a ball gets batted, you have no design. There's no telling what's about to happen. That concerns me a little bit, but there's far more that encourages me than concerns me. I feel totally validated on Michigan. Like, I did not think we were controversial on Michigan in our preseason take here. We predicted them to go under 8.5 wins, which may still or may still not happen. I don't know how that's going to pan out. But they're going to be a serious contender. They're just going to be a contender a year from now. I have felt like they're a year away. I was very strong in that conviction in the preseason. Obviously, some Michigan fans, understandably so, they didn't like that because no one wants to give away a season. I'm not saying they'll give away this season. What I have expected is I expect you'll see Bryce Underwood and you'll realize that kid has huge potential. I thought that last night, and his stat line sucked. I thought that last night. I don't know how you watch him, with unbiased glasses. I don't know how you watch him and think anything other than that guy with a legitimate receiving core around him would be lethal. That's at least how I view him. I thought I'd view him that way. I do view him that way. Now, here's what I came away from that game thinking. Michigan will be whatever they are this year. And I'm not writing them off this year, by the way. They're not a national title contender, but I'm not writing them off. I watched them scratch out, I can't remember how many wins last year. They beat Ohio State and Bama, couldn't even throw the ball. So I'm not putting it past Jerome Moore to figure out something. You'll have an improving Bryce Underwood as the season goes on, but they don't scare anyone at pass catcher. They just don't. What can you do about that? Not much this year. What you can do once the season's over is what we've been talking about since July, and that's attack the portal at the receiver position. And I do think they'll have a proof of performance or a product that's proof enough that guys are going to want to come there. What you can't do is you can't be sitting here a year from now with sort of the inverse of the problem that LSU had when they had Jaden Daniels or Miami had when they had Cam Ward. They had star quarterback play and defenses were terrible. Michigan's defense is never going to be terrible. But if Michigan's sitting here a year from now, and they've gone to all the trouble to get Bryce Underwood, and they've spent what it takes to get Bryce Underwood, and they don't take the added steps of spending what it takes to get him supporting help, that's a dereliction of duty. I have no doubt they will. I'm just saying that's what I'm thinking about already with them. They're not an easy out. I am not saying, they may win 5 or 6 this year. Michigan's better than that this year, but I think they'll be a lot better next year than they are this year. But to get back to Oklahoma for a second, all right, so you saw them last night. Most of you did. I haven't seen the ratings yet. I assume it's pretty substantial, though. So everyone saw that last night. Well, all of a sudden, there's a lot of Oklahoma momentum amongst the college football public today. John Mateer, Oklahoma. I saw those Heisman odds radically update. Feels nice to be sitting here with that ticket already. Feels nice. I saw the Oklahoma odds change to win the SEC and a lot more people talking about him. So as the guy who was pumping Oklahoma nationally before most people were, I feel like it's my responsibility to now take this same microphone and tell you need to slow down a little bit. We need to be careful a little bit. It was a big game. It is one game. And I had a buddy text me this morning. He said, this right here will be looked at as the moment Oklahoma arrived. And I said, well, it should be, but I don't know that yet. That's up to Oklahoma. Because you can ride a wave, you can get drowned by a wave. So they will define what this moment means. Because we've seen many, many, many instances in the history of college football where we thought we saw a program-defining win, or we thought we saw a coach get his signature win. The dude loses next week. They go on to lose 3 more games that year. And that program-defining win, that career-defining win, it's deemed irrelevant. It's a footnote in history. And why is that? It's not because the game's magnitude changed. It's because your future actions rendered it moot in terms of its significance. So Oklahoma, as we sit here right now, has an opportunity for us to be looking back 3 years from now. Forget 3 months from now, 3 years from now. We could, and I would say should be looking back on the night Michigan came to town in front of the world, national TV. And Oklahoma planted their flag, in this case, in their own building. That's the way it should go. But you see, it doesn't really matter if it's 10-7 at halftime against Temple this Saturday. It doesn't really matter if Hugh Freeze comes in there with your quarterback that wasn't good enough to play for you and beat you in a couple of weeks, and then you're looking up saying, what happened? Oh, man, we still got Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama, Missouri, and LSU to go. You see how quickly that can change. So the good news for Oklahoma is their destiny is entirely in their hands. So all those external factors are irrelevant, including what I'm saying right now. All I'm saying is there's still vulnerabilities with this team. They didn't run the ball down anyone's throat last night. They needed quarterback run to do that. They had several critical issues on special teams. They made mental mistakes, physical mistakes. They made mistakes that a better team would have taken advantage of and found a way to win, even in Norman. Now, they weren't playing that kind of team. They were playing Michigan. That's great. That's great. You made mistakes and you didn't have to pay for it with a loss. That's wonderful. It doesn't mean that you're immune to it now, but you can feel that way. I know you guys have watched that replay a lot, and I know everyone's going to pump the tires. All I'm trying to do is check the pressure a little bit. All I'm trying to do is do what I trust Gabe Eichert, I trust Teddy, I trust those guys out there. I trust Eddie and those guys, George and those guys to do this. I'm just trying to help. If they need a helpful soundbite, I'm trying to help. But let me tell you what I will not take the air out of the tires on, and that is the experience at Oklahoma. I was so glad last night that America finally got to see this. We get to the stadium yesterday. We're fresh in from Iowa. We walk in, and I kid you not, one of our friends there, standing in the corner yelling at me. I come over. He's got a chalice of supremacy in his hands. We've shipped out less than 30 or 40 of those in history. He's got one. He brought it to the stadium, not knowing if we were going to run into each other. And then he asked me to sign it. To my knowledge, first signed chalice of supremacy that we've ever done. Great scene. Listen, I spend more time in Oklahoma than any state other than the one I live in, and maybe the one I'm from. But I go there for football. I go there for storm chasing. I love Oklahoma. Many of you have not been to Oklahoma. Many more of you have not been to a game at Oklahoma. And the beauty of Oklahoma, if you can ever go there and experience it, no one has a bad trip to the University of Oklahoma. No one has a bad trip going to an Oklahoma game. I was talking to some of the Michigan folks before the game last night. They said, people are so nice here. They're like suspiciously nice. Like they're up to something. No, they're not up to anything. It's hospitality. It's not unique to Oklahoma. There's a uniqueness about Oklahoma. So the beauty to me of Oklahoma is it's this perfect cross-section of a place that has a lot of money, but also still has a chip on its shoulder. Because some places it's either or. Oklahoma, you get the best of both worlds. They're a place they're keenly aware that there are some corners of the world that look down on them, and they act like it. They're very prideful. I love it. I'm out there all the time. I consider myself an honorary Oklahoman. I can pronounce all the names of the towns the right way. That's really what gets you in. However, they also have really good resources there. So it's an immaculate campus, the facilities there, the stadium there, the people there, but there's an attitude there. It's why if anyone, Brent Venables is good, but I'm saying if that job generically is open, there is a kind of coach that's not cut out for most of the other programs in the SEC that may be cut out for Oklahoma, because the characteristics of Oklahoma, a little bit different than some of the other places in the SEC. And I'm not sure I can explain that to you accurately enough unless you've been there and you've experienced it. But that spectacle last night, that was what I had hoped the Tennessee game would be for them last year, and it wasn't. So it was delayed a year, but people finally got to see it. The sky's the limit at Oklahoma. Sky is the limit. Now they got one validating proof of performance dropped in their lap. I'm very excited to see what they do with it. I needed this one. My prediction needed this one, because elsewhere they are not coming through for me. So thank you to Oklahoma.